Okay, so welcome, Gretchen Oehler Hogg. Did I spell it right? Did I pronounce it right? Yes. And you are my Life Between Life colleague in Arizona. And when I was active in the Michael Newton Institute as a volunteer for some years, I was working with mentoring. And then I remember I was connected with you at first through your training, and then you certified, and that was wonderful. So we got to know each other a little bit back then. And now we decided to again have a get together, or I asked you and you said yes, thank you. So I think we'll start to, yeah, it's great. So I leave it to you now to introduce yourself, please. That would be great.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm looking so forward to connecting with you again, too. So my journey basically started as a nurse, and very traditional nursing, a lot of intensive care. And I saw just phenomena that nobody teaches in nursing school about when somebody has a near-death experience. And, you know, when all the doctors would walk away, the patients would say, "Can I tell you something?" And just talk about how they lifted out of their bodies and were, like, you know, in that bird's eye view, looking down at us, working on them, you know, when they resuscitating them and whatever. And just, gosh, I remember even patients that had a knowing that almost like they said goodbye to me on a night shift, you know, whatever that was, and transitioned shortly after that. And then also people that defied all the odds. So phenomena like that, and then my own personal experience of having a premonition about my husband having a plane crash, where I had a premonition about it, and I had the experience of leaving my body when I was told that, you know, they didn't know whether he was alive or dead at that point. And he's fine today.
Oh, thanks God.
Thank
Yes.
goodness. Yeah, but just that, those phenomena of lifting out of my body and observing myself from a totally different, you know, I don't know, dimension, whatever that was, lifting out of the body, looking at it from a different field perspective. And those, like, were profound experiences for me that made me just want to constantly question my science mind of how I was taught and this other phenomena. There's a lot more out there that I don't understand yet, and I want to explore this world. So that started my healing journey, and exploring all different types of healing modalities, and eventually getting into more of quantum studies, especially with Deepak Chopra, who, you know, was really big about the quantum world and being non-local and concepts that I just frankly had never heard of before, but I was so fascinated and intrigued by them. So that eventually, when I retired from nursing, decided to go to hypnotherapy school. That wasn't quite enough, so I started studying a lot more of things that really interested me, and eventually led to Life Between Lives, the Michael Newton studies, which absolutely just spoke to me on a soul level, because it was truth. It was something that I had a knowing of, that there is this quantum world around us, and we do have some tools to access what I call the other side of the veil. Mm-hmm. And Michael Newton was a pioneer in this world, as were several others, exploring this quantum field. And he did it beautifully. And one of the gifts he gave us was to have a formulaic approach of how to study it, how to implement this type of exploration for clients to help them look at profound. I think so many people have the mission of, what is my purpose in this lifetime?
Sure.
Yeah, and how why are certain characters or certain people in my life those soul contracts? And this is such a gift to give people, to help them understand what we call the cast of characters.
Yeah.
And then to discover or to explore on that other side into the soul state, the soulful state. It has many names, the in-between lifetime state, but as Michael coined, the life between lives, where there's just profound wisdom when we connect with our spirit guides. The Council of Elders has a number of names, but also all of the other opportunities to explore within the other realms, the Akashic records, the healing temples, which I think is one of the most profound experiences for people to visit in there. So Rita, what you and I have talked about is, how is this work evolving? Because Michael, my goodness, thousands of clients, and literally created a platform for us to explore, facilitate these experiences for people,
Yes.
which are deeply moving, but how it's evolving, because what you and I were having a delightful conversation before we started is consciousness is evolving.
Sure, that's right.
And so how are we meeting this need? How are we flowing in that direction of consciousness? So, and you had said that you've noticed that, and other practitioners that you speak with have also noticed that people are going to higher realms.
Sure.
People are having otherworldly experiences. What I call starseed, and many people are familiar with the term starseed, but starseed experiences, hybrid soul experiences. I have found that there's a number of clients, I think there's a few reasons for this, but there's resistance to going to the past life experience from the womb state, because they're already so advanced on a soul level that they just immediately go to that interlife state.
Yes.
And it's fascinating to me.
Yes. Can I just say something in between here? It's fascinating to listen to you, Gretchen, because I can relate to, of course, many things. I used to be a nurse too, and worked in a hospice and all that. But also, as you said, when you were working in a hospital, when people were ill and felt that the exit is coming near, that they would whisper and call for you, because of course the soul sends to you, the person sends to you. And also I think for us who chose this to work with life within life, that people sense us somehow, and I call it that my soul dances with the client's soul, so to speak, and all of a sudden there is someone who listens and someone who is can travel. We travel together with our clients somehow. We cannot put anyone to a state, as some people think, but yours also, I hear from many colleagues in the life in Michael Newton Institute, we who trained in the Michael Newton methodology, that depending on the history, also some are doctors, some are nurses, some have none history at all from the medical field. They come from other fields, and maybe they attract other clients than you attract, or I attract, of course. So it seems to be not only the change in level of consciousness, but also who we attract. I mean, over the years, I guess, don't you think so?
Absolutely. I think as our consciousness expands, that's what we magnetize towards us.
Sure.
And you're absolutely right. I think those of us that have been in caregiver roles on, a multitude of levels, there's also a soul recognition from a patient, a client,
Sure.
that this person is in resonance with me on a soul level, and they can open up. And that's one awareness I really had an aha moment of years ago in my hypnotherapy practice. I started around 2007. And it took me a while to really recognize that energetically, when I connect with people, that that energy connection has already been established then. And there's a number of clients that would show up at my door and just say, I had the weirdest dreams about, things last night that were so pertinent to the session. Or I was crying on my way into, coming to this session. And it was like this, I was releasing a lot of things, a lot of emotions. And it really helped me understand the energy of the connection. Surely. And how profound that is in many walks of life. That
surely. I always, for someone who wants to book a session, even if they email me, I always want to have a telephone conversation. Yes. And usually I feel it starts even before, but the way we connect, as you have explained now, the energetic connection seems to be much more deep than one can imagine. And how this works, I've never figured out, of course, but it seems to be so wonderful to meet someone in a session and to feel that I know this person deeper, although we never met. And it's not like I meet a maybe friend in a party or something like that. I don't know actually the difference, but of course it's my work as a facilitator is to also be not neutral, but to really facilitate 100% for the client, even though I feel things myself. I usually not share everything what I feel myself, but like psychics maybe do, that they get the information and then they pass it on. This is coming straight from the client's awareness, which is, what do you think about that? I mean, this way to that the client gets first-hand information somehow through.
I love that.
Yeah, isn't it? Yeah, I love it too.
You've touched on such a key aspect of maintaining neutrality, and I like to think of it as just holding space for each client.
Right.
But we do have to have some of that neutrality. It doesn't mean that we can't open up our emotional body as well in that connection, because I think that's a lot of that energy rapport that's created.
Sure.
However, we're more effective as facilitators because I think we can tune in to how the session is being guided by the client's guides.
Sure.
And, their spirit team. as they connect with ours. And I think that's one thing we've all learned and appreciated, is that we set up the energy by not only inviting in our spirit team to help us as facilitator, but to align with the client's spirit team so that there's a higher resonance that's connected there.
Yes,
and I think this is the quantum field.
It is truly, it's truly. And I remember in the training, the Life Between Life training, that all of a sudden I was so relieved to realize my time as a therapist is over. That it's a responsibility to be a facilitator, of course. But it's the responsibility is different somehow, because when I realized this is a teamwork, as you said, with one's own guides and with the guides of the client, and sometimes there is a surgical team coming into the sessions, at least when I work, and they do things. I mean, it sounds strange maybe for some people, but it's such a relief to kind of be a witness, but also a loving presence and holding space, as you said. I love it so much. I believe I trained it somehow from my personal history. I was an osteopath for many years, and after I was a nurse, and then I worked with something called cranial osteopathy, which is very meditative way also. I won't go into that now, but I already then realized that there was a presence coming in from, we called it the great tide in this kind of terminology, and it was like a presence coming in, and it can start like that. So it is truly wonderful. So shall we talk a little bit about, I mean, you have practiced now for a while, and you, of course, you come a long way, and you've been a nurse, and you didn't be doing many things, but these Life Between Life sessions, as we were told in the methodology to do these super long sessions, 4 or 5 hours even, and for me it's not anymore that long. And I heard from many colleagues that it's not a matter of hours, but as you said, these people, it seems to me that they go where they need to go. No matter time. I mean, linear time.
And I think that's part of, some people refer to this as the ascension within the collective consciousness. And I think many of us as practitioners are really tuning into the evolution of the work. And if we're embracing this quantum world, the quantum world can facilitate shifts. I mean, instantaneously.
Instant healing.
And so we don't need to have these marathon sessions. And Michael Newton's gift was also that he was a researcher. So he would really dig, to extract information. And the one thing as a practitioner, and I hear you saying the same thing, is if we're really tuning into the client's goals and we're facilitating them getting the information directly from their higher self and their oversoul, as they're connecting with their spirit team in the quantum world, where there is no time. So instantaneous healings can happen. The wisdom that they can glean, that comes from their own oversoul knowledge, I think is profound, because it's not as though you're going to, a medium, a psychic, whatever, who tells you through their own filters what they see, sense, or feel. And there's some terrific, obviously, very skilled people out there that can do that. But to have the information come from that client's oversoul, their higher self wisdom, I think is one of the absolute best gifts. And it literally is from their soul's wisdom that we're helping them tap into. This isn't about us healing or anything. It's about facilitating.
Yes. And I remember I realized right away when I took the training with this talented teacher, Paul Laurent, and someone called Angela Noon. She's not super active anymore, but I had sessions with her in London, and these talented people in our institute, many sorts of talents, of course, but all have their magical history. How come they were attracted to this work? But I remember that the methodology, it's included, as you know, as Michael Newton called it, the warming up, and the warming up is not such a long procedure anymore, but I thought it was genius that he figured out that to do this super long relaxation first, like any hypnotherapy really, but then also to go to the happy memories to build resources, because of course many have dysfunctional childhood, what we call it, and then that would wind up in a trauma therapy with a re-traumatization and stuff like that. And then to go, the most genius from him, I think, was to go to the time in the mother's womb, when we are in the uterus as a fetus, and that was mind-blowing to me, that to have the information, because I'm just telling all the listeners here, you know this, Gretchen, of course, that to have the memory from the soul remembers the time in the mother's womb. So I experienced many times myself, and all the clients, that, as you said, some of the clients go directly to spirit world from there, but the method is to go to then to continue to past life and to the death moment in past life. So then Michael Newton called it to enter from the front door from a past life death moment, and to feel what it's like to die, really, which is amazing in such an, and then, so the whole methodology is, I think it's based
it was
on
brilliant,
super brilliant. And one could think that anyone could do it, but I think it takes somehow a certain soul to facilitate still such a soul dance, really, because it needs to be totally safe, a feeling of safety and trust.
Absolutely. And I think I'm so glad you brought up the womb state too, because that is an area that I've been focusing on a lot more with clients, because the fetus is still connected in the soul experience, the soul state, while they're coming into physical form. And I think that dance continues even after birth. One of the most phenomenal experiences I had as an obstetrical nurse was having, facilitating in the deliveries. These babies that would be born, and you'd look into their eyes, and they're what I call it gives me spirit bumps.
I get goosebumps.
It's the soul eyes, where you can feel that wisdom that this baby, this brand new baby, is bringing right in. And then you can see days later, whenever that is, where the veil closes, because you can't possibly exist in this 3D world and still be, well, some people can. I think that's part of the shifting in the collective consciousness now. And there's some very evolved souls that have come into our 3D world to assist in the collective consciousness rising right now. But you can see when that veil closes, because babies have to learn and download everything on their hard drive of how to be a human in this human experience, because every experience in an incarnation is, how is your soul evolution not only expressing itself but evolving to higher understandings, which is the purpose for our incarnation.
Yes, and as we talk about the uterus and having these experiences with clients and also ourselves, that the way also in the Michael Newton mythology that he created over so many decades, and also a lot of experience with clients, that to ask this specific question. For example, this question: when during your own pregnant time in the uterus, did you, as a soul, you're talking directly to the soul, did you connect with your present hosting body? And sometimes I ask, was it in the beginning, in the middle, and or the end? But some people said 3 months, 4 months. They somehow in that stage, they're deeply then hypnotized, of course, but they then start answering these questions. To me in the beginning, this was so thrilling what they would say, and then would I ask, okay, so you kind of incarnated then and then, and did you go in and out, these questions we ask, and or did you stay, and all is so thrilling to and for them too, to hear themselves talk about all this, and for some people who had problems to connect with their mom because the mother was maybe not, it was not a safe and holding environment when they were born and stuff like that, but they sometimes realize, as you know, some things that I came to help my mother, or I,
Yes. Yeah.
You heard many things.
Who's the wiser soul there, right?
Right.
Yeah.
So yes.
And so it's fascinating to reflect on that. And one of the things I remember learning from various teachers in the hypnotherapy world and in all the other healing modalities that I've studied, and I know you have too, is that we continue doing that, connecting to the other side of the veil, even in our dream state as we, progress in our own lifetime. It's sort of like a reset button. And a lot of people are very aware of connecting on the other side of the realm too. But infants, I think, do that a lot more than what we have an awareness of.
Surely,
and
yes.
Yeah. And one of the things that was a real aha for me too, in doing womb state, is the fact that there's a number of people that just really connect with the physical body at the very last minute before birth, because, well, at least in my experience, they've incarnated a multitude of times. And it's like, I don't need to do that. I'm here for a mission.
Right.
Jump into that body and boom.
Boom.
Coming out. So
it's amazing to hear all these stories, and they usually explain also, so it's exciting how everything comes from the voice and the person who is in the deeply hypnotized state, but how they can also keep track on how do you say, personalities, like the in the womb, and also then the child self, and many past lives sometimes, and complicated. In the beginning, I remember I had to write down everything to keep track myself where we now, but usually I remember a question, I think I learned it in the training, that always to ask who's talking now, because this prevents it from becoming some kind of channeling or outspace thing. So it's always, I want it to be very physical and visually feel that this is coming from a source, and we know it's a child self speaking, or the soul speaking, or
and that's one of the areas that I reflect upon a lot, is that is it really channeling, or is it really tapping into that quantum field of the not just the higher self, but the oversoul that has the awareness of everything that always happens.
Right. I also thought about it a lot, and I talked about it with many colleagues. But to me, channeling, it's just a gut feeling I have. It's nothing wrong with channeling. Many people, like the Course of Miracles, and we know all these channelings, and I always feel an authenticity. It's like it gets to me, then I enjoy it. But in a session, if the client starts speaking like, I am something, master of the galactic fleet, and I want to tell you, there is no connection with the emotions. you know all this, of
Yeah,
course.
yeah, yeah.
Some people are so used to it because many psychic people come for sessions, and really in the beginning I cannot prevent anything, of course, but I can tell that it's maybe some kind of protection to dissociate and start talking like a robot or something. So then it's something else, I guess, but nothing.
Rita, apologize for interrupting,
No,
but
please
have
do.
you had people, I've had many more people coming to me lately and wondering if you've had the same experience, that have experiences with plant medicine, or people that have done ayahuasca or whatever the plant medicine is, and want to know if they can connect to this quantum state without using plant medicine. And, you know, my answer to that is yes. The plant medicine may be just another opportunity or another opening, another gateway into this realm.
Yes.
But I love, and I tell people, I love the Life Between Lives work because you are connecting to your most authentic soul aspect that is a direct conduit, and not, you know, through the different
some people
portals.
call it bypassing, that you kind of take a leap into through I don't condemn anything, or I don't have really ideas,
it's just
but I had many clients, especially before COVID. There were many, especially young men, who were into going to through these ayahuasca things, and so I never done anything like that myself, so I cannot really tell you what it would be. But I think a Life Between Lives session is totally without risk, mostly, and not taking in anything really, but just but I think I recommend the book by our colleague, she's an MD, Dorothea Foucault, who just published her book Soul Light, and she elaborates a lot about this in certain chapters. She still does writes a column called From the Doctor's Desk in Stories of Afterlife for Michael Newton Institute newsletter. And but I read a few books about people who took LSD and then how do you say, reported there was someone sitting with them, and you know, they used LSD back in the days for all sorts of how do you say, consciousness explorations. But I think LBL is truly an option for those who do not want to.
Well, I believe that every single one of us as a Life Between Lives practitioners really creates a sacred space, and that's one of that. Michael Newton was really key on embedding certain suggestions that creates that sacredness in that enveloping people in that beautiful light shield. I call it a number of different names, but it is sacred in that, again, that we facilitate and can help navigate how that person's soul is literally guiding the session as well, without other influences that can, you know, have a wide variety of experiences that maybe are not under the, I don't want to say control, because it's not about control, but it's about the expertise of helping someone navigate their experience of tapping in on their soul level.
Yes, and I think the human warmth and the connectedness I feel with my client, at least they come and we sit by the kitchen table and we maybe have a coffee or tea and connect, and there's some preparations too before, and everything somehow to really I think it's quite rare these days that people, of course, can go for any kind of therapy, but I know at least here in Sweden within psychiatry there is very seldom this kind of connection, person-to-person connection, and someone and for 2 or 3 hours or 4 hours to be with someone who is surely there with a total presence and asking coaching, how do you say, using the coaching method to ask open questions, not to be leading, which is also, I think, a relief, and not to forget the silence. At least the sessions I do these days.
Yes.
Have you experienced there could be hours of silence when you feel that now the angels are here?
You know, rapport is such a key element. And I think so many people have an awareness, especially during the isolation, that was a global phenomena over the past few years. That human connection that you're talking about is so profound. And again, that holding space, that rapport. And I think every one of us that has done this work, we feel on a soul level when we're right in that same plane with that person. And at times many practitioners will talk about getting images or a knowing of what the client is experiencing. It becomes almost an intertwined energy, but still to maintain that neutrality is really key there. But we do tap into, and again, this is that quantum field that I think is accelerating at just such a rapid pace right now, which is why at least a lot of my colleagues, and like you, excuse me, you and I were talking about, that we're noticing is that the work is just elevating rapidly, and the clientele coming to us are, you know, there's not a hierarchy per se. It's really an experience level of number of incarnations and the soul's evolution and the auric field colors and soul color, all of that. But it's not about a hierarchy, but I do believe that we are shifting our energies, and many people are noticing in a variety of ways, but the work is shifting along with it, because the gift I think we're all given is to start out with the mastery of, you know, the life between lives, how it was presented, but given the opportunity to bring our skill sets, because we all have tremendous variety of backgrounds, those of us that do this work, and recognize it as a sacred process.
Yes.
And we rise to what are the needs of the clients and within this collective consciousness. And I just think the work is brilliant, and it's sacred, and it's an honor to do the work.
It is. It's like lineage in a way, but not according to any guru or anything. But it's. I think the people are. Many of my colleagues, like you, also, I've realized we are some kind of custodians or midwives. Even you are a midwife, but I was never a midwife. But in a way, and. I've also, since the time I was working in a hospice, I was thinking of this conscious exit and to be born and also to leave this earth is somehow in our, especially the Western world, so marginalized somehow. And I remember when I was a nurse in a surgical or medical or whatever place I was working, that if someone was dying, it was just, you don't need to go in there, they're dying anyway somehow, if they were in coma. But people who are in coma here and no, and I read a lot about these deathbed experiences, seeing the light and someone coming to get you and all that. So So I have a few nurses who did sessions here, who were working with hospice for children, and they told me also that they were your kind. The children wanted to talk with them because the parents were so sad and terrified, so they felt so lonely because they could not speak about what they could sense themselves. I mean, as a child, you can sense.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, Rita, one of my favorite experiences was taking care, because I did a lot of medical hypnotherapy before I recognized that bringing people into the soul state is the greatest gift we can facilitate for people. And a woman came to me who was a nurse and needed a heart transplant. And she had a problem with her heart ever since her second child was born. And she was very religious, and she knew that being on the heart transplant list meant that somebody's life, you know, was being expended on, and that she would be the receiver. And she was having a difficult time, you know, coming to terms and accepting being the receiver of the magnitude of this gift. So I worked with her to bring her in resonance with that, and to help her with, you know, just the understanding of, you know, past lives and connecting to other souls, and that if she received the gift she was meant to, that there's a lot of soul contracts around that work too. But what was fascinating is afterwards, and I'll keep it short because there's a multitude of sessions in here that were brilliant in what she was able to glean. But after, when she received the heart, she could say, Gretchen, the energy is just so different. I'm, you know, she was trying to describe what I label as, it was discordant. The energy of the heart was not in alignment with her own vibrational frequencies. So when we worked on a multitude of sessions, she discovered that the donor heart, and this was confirmed too, came from a 13-year-old girl.
Oh.
And she was in her 40s at the time. And so there literally was a different resonance. So, you know, worked with her on that level. But the most brilliant thing happened in a session where I could just feel, I was looking for a past life connection for her with the soul gift of the donor heart, because it just, there was such a knowing that there was some type of a soul contract here. Well, come to find out, in a past life regression, and the energy of the donor came in, and they had an entire conversation, and she had been a daughter of hers in another lifetime that died at 2 years of age, and caused so much pain, emotional pain, that she had promised she would come back to gift her. It gives me just spirit bumps, those truth bumps of.
Yes, that's beautiful. This truly is on a
beautiful,
subtle but also such a human level, the way you help this woman. This is a kind of, I think, a help from one soul to another, which is so wonderful that you do, Gretchen. And
like really, you do too, though, with the deathbed. Deathbed wife.
Well, thank you, but so, but it's wonderful to hear, and I'd like to speak especially. I think soon I would like to speak with you for hours and hours, but soon we need to wind up. But do you have some clients who are nurses, just like you and me, former nurses, who I had many. How was it for you to see, or how was it for you? I mean, having a vocation in common maybe doesn't mean anything, but I can tell you why I ask you this, because I have all these ambulance nurses and midwives, and they suffer so much these days in the system because they feel that they can't do a good job, as one could call it, because it's such a rush, and maybe that's part of the world development, I don't know, but they are longing so much to have this space for their soul, and to also to know why have I chosen such a path and all that.
I absolutely, my heart goes out, especially during I always hesitate to bring in the energy of the pandemic, but the so many people that were and are in the medical arena, in that full spectrum of people that wound up in patient care during an incredibly challenging perspective. There's a lot of trauma there. Sure. And I think the gift we can give people is to help them understand that was each and every one of those souls, their exit point from this incarnation. And that there are no accidents, so that I truly believe that our birth angels in the higher realms keep us in this physical incarnation until it is our time. So I think we can do a huge amount of benefit for anybody that's in a caregiver role, or anybody that isn't having a lot of grief from losing, especially children. I work with a number of parents that have lost children, and just helping them understand this. But again, I believe that those of us that help people understand, we are helping that collective experience, and helping people understand that if it really is just about the soul contracts, and coming from this place of, it all comes down to just be love. Just be love, radiate that frequency. When we expand our light field and everybody else is on a soul level, this is how we're shifting the energies during whatever you want to call it, whatever this ascension process, whatever is occurring right now. But if we can help support the people that don't quite get their role, but are in such service, and being in service, I think, is the highest thing, the highest life mission that we can do for one another, that helps all of us be heart-centered.
Right. I also, I agree totally everything you say, Gretchen. And remember, I wasn't working in the hospice for such a long time, I think a few years only, but I remember that there was nobody ever dying there who said, I regret I didn't work enough, or it's always I didn't spend enough time with my loved ones, something like that, if they regretted anything. And to come to peace with what is. But it's love is the central theme, always to remember how
and that's what they experience on the other side. Everyone, when they go on the other side of the veil, they travel to that realm, talks about that incredible connection and feeling of love.
Right. And many clients, as you know, of course, get a sense of this immense, it's more than love even, I don't know what to call it. It is love, of course, but it is also some kind of surrender and softness somehow, to just I don't know, to be simply.
And I think that love in that terms, and I think words are inadequate.
That's why.
It's a divine connection to the highest source energy, not only in the universe but in the multiverse, and it's that quantum field of connecting to what I don't think we can even really conceive of from our human mind.
No, that's
So,
true. That's true.
but it's
And
a feeling
yeah,
state.
yes, sure it is. And it's a it's kind of beyond all the concepts that still it's like like Tao. It cannot be if you understand it, it cannot really be understood, and all these mysteries of life. Yeah. So Gretchen, we will there will be information below this video about you and how to get in touch with you. And you do sessions online, right? So if anybody feel attracted to you. And still, I'm the only person here in Sweden who is trained in the Michael Newton Institute.
I was wondering.
Strangely, still, there's people who do all sorts of hypnotherapy, of course, but that is truly strange in one way, because I have lectured and I have written books and everything, but it hopefully someone is attracted.
I just referred somebody to you. So
well, yeah, well, I keep on doing.
I was like,
I
have somebody in your neck of the woods there. So
yes, yeah, but yeah, I don't mind, but I think that in the Michael Newton Institute we have a website, newtoninstitute.org, and there is somewhere you can check. It says locate a therapist, and there we have about 220 or something, and of course it's hard to know who these people are, but you can also search on languages. And I interviewed our colleague Rita the other day, who speaks Russian, and
I'm so in gratitude for the Michael Newton Institute website and referral basis. I would say the vast majority of my clientele do come from my profile on the Michael Newton Institute website, and then word of mouth from there. So so grateful, but more importantly, so grateful to all of the other practitioners and people that do this work in whatever those realms are, because I do think it's profound work, and I'd like to think that all of us are helping to shift the consciousness right now in each of our own ways. So thank you for the opportunity.
It's a win-win. Thank you. It's a win-win. It's a two-way street, because it's the bliss of it is so rewarding. And last night I was recording a video with our colleague Elizabeth Lockhart, who I believe also she lives in Tucson, also Arizona. And we were talking about how self-care is so important these days. So there's so many things that help us, relax and be who we are.
I think more of us are in tune that we have to raise our own frequencies, self-care, so that we're more effective at what we do, because we understand the significance of our energy field as well as others, as well as that collective. So
yeah, that's wonderful. It's like amen. Okay, Gretchen. So
thank you, Rita.
Maybe we speak another time in case
would love to.
Yes, and thank you so much, and thank you all who listened. And I think I have listeners. I've just started recently this YouTube channel, but there's a few listeners, and I record some videos in Swedish and some in English, and some videos and some videos just talking about something myself close to my heart that day.
Good. I'm starting my YouTube channel too. So
really, that's great. Yes, and maybe you have already the address you can send me, and I will share it also. Yes. All right. So thank you for
Rita.
now. I'll stop
thank you to everyone out there.
Bye bye. Bye bye everybody. Let's see, where's the button?